Buddy, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I wanted to say that there are many people talking about movie quotes and things changing due to the Mandela effect. E.T. home phone, which makes no sense. We all remember, everybody knows that it's E.T. phone home. And to say it the other way doesn't make any sense at all. And so the thing is, I wanted to point out with all of these things, it's just like Beam Me Up Scotty, it never happened, or Lucy, you got some splaining to do, that never happened now in this reality. And most people are quoting different movie lines saying that you'll notice that the Mandela effect is only about iconic movie quotes and things, but I disagree wholeheartedly. I don't think that that's the case at all. I think that that is what we measure, because collectively those are things that have stuck with us the most. Individually, there are things that stick with us more than Beam Me Up Scotty or Life is Like a Box of Chocolates or any of those things. But they're all personal things. We're not sharing everything with everyone else. Movies, on the other hand, and books and music, these are all things that we share with hundreds of millions, billions of people. And so the odds of us misremembering as a group any one of these things is astronomically high. I mean, it would be, trillions to one, I would think. I'm not a mathematician. But it doesn't seem very likely to me that we would all misremember. And then if the problem is that we cannot remember things well, even as a group, then how would we remember so well the things that we're supposed to be misremembering? In other words, how do we all remember Beam Me Up Scotty if it never happened? What a great sense of memory we have for misremembering. And that would be an ironic thing. And it doesn't make any sense. And so what I'm asserting here is that, no, I don't believe that the Mandela effect is about movie quotes or about just scripture or about anything like that. I think it's the things that we collectively notice. And when you add in the changes to our physical world, the geographical changes, all the very strange animals that I've looked up, you couldn't put LSD in your cornflakes and come up with some of these creatures. They're really, really strange. If you don't know about them, I would suggest that you Google newly discovered species of animals within the last 5 years. And you'll see all kinds of weird stuff. I mean, some of them are beautiful. Some of them look like they're not real. There's these birds. They look like they're stuffed animals, but they're alive and they're huge. I've never seen them before. I think they're God's creation, but I don't think they're from my timeline. I don't think that I would have missed them. So the thing is, I've gotten to thinking about a lot of these different things. JFK assassination, for one. We all remember, well, most people that I talk to remember there being 4 people in the car. Now there were 6 with a bulletproof glass in the middle of the car, which makes very little sense to me, unless they're trying to protect him from the driver shooting him in the vehicle, which makes, again, no sense. So there are some very strange things. And I remember when I was growing up being taught that there were 2 presidents assassinated. One was JFK and one was Abraham Lincoln. And I remember that was important because JFK was the youngest president to be elected to the United States. And I remember that well. I was a good student. Now there have been 4 presidents assassinated, including William McKinley and James Garfield. And what that's done is it's bumped Kennedy out of the spotlight of being the youngest man elected to the presidency. He's no longer the youngest man. And that's because somebody assassinated McKinley. It's either McKinley or Garfield. And so a younger man had to step in. And that's how that changed. To my recollection, in my opinion, that's how it changed. So there are many things that after I make a video, I go back in my mind and I think, there's so many other things to talk about. I don't want to try to talk about all of them at once because I think a person tends to start blathering when they do that. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to be sound like somebody who's had too many cups of coffee and can't control what their train of thought is. I want my videos to impart a certain amount of seriousness, and yet I don't want to promote fear. I don't think that's the way to go with this. I think we need to be in it together and use common sense, prayer, and good communication skills with each other. A lot of people don't believe that this is something that can happen or has been happening, but it's hard to deny the evidence, especially with the residual evidence that life is like a box of chocolates. Lucy, you got some explaining to do. And Beam Me Up, Scotty, those are three that I remember quite well. And the ET phone home. And now it's ET home phone, which, again, it doesn't even make any sense. So a lot of these changes seem to be very odd. Along with that, the changes to many, many paintings, the Lord's Supper, Last Supper rather. Now the Mona Lisa is smirking, like this, where she didn't have a smile before at all. And I remember thinking, how could anybody think she's smiling? She wasn't smiling, and not my timeline. And now she's grinning, like she's watching Hee Haw. So it's not a normal thing that we're going through. It's something extraordinary, and I think that it's important that we remind each other of all these different things, and we can talk about it with people carefully, of course, because nobody likes to be ridiculed or put down for their opinion. But of course, it's cowardly not to speak up or talk about things at all. So I think there's a happy medium where we can talk about it with one another in a reasonable way. If people disagree, say, well, we can talk about it another time, or agree to disagree and talk about something else. But it doesn't mean you can't bring it up. I bring it up with people, intellectual people. I bring it up with people that are just any types of people. And sometimes they look at me like I'm mad as a hatter. But it also provokes them to look some things up. And I'll say, well, just do me a favor. Just look up this one thing or two things. And I'll hit them with something that, might be close to what their interests are. If they like movies or if they like books. I'll point out some changes in books or scripture or whatever it may be. And so we all, I think, owe it to one another and generations to come to find out and to at least talk about what's happening and why it's happening. We can't really know for sure, but we have a general idea that it's been happening since they've started these particle experiments. And I'm all for science. I love science. And there may be a lot of good that comes out of this. Maybe raccoon dogs will turn out to be wonderful pets. I don't know. But, it may also be that we wind up with things in this timeline that we really didn't want. And there isn't any way to undo these things. That's the problem that I have. If you don't know what it is you're doing for sure, and you keep doing it, I believe that is a fool's errand, because you're going to wind up by bringing things into existence if that's what they're doing. And that's what I believe at this time. They're bringing things into existence, into the fabric of our timeline, our universe. And so I hope they figure it out quickly, because everything could be at stake. It's exciting. It's very exciting to see what's going to come next. But it's also very frightening in some ways. So again, we have to realize that man is not in control of everything, obviously. And that's probably for the best. I would think. Anyway, God bless you, and thank you for watching. Again, I'm going to wind this up by saying that I'm so glad to have the method to communicate with other people. I watch many, many videos online, hundreds of them, about this subject, and I read as much as I can and ascertain as much information as I can. And then I want to impart to others from the heart the way I feel about what's happening, and the moral implications, ramifications of these situations, and what we should all be trying to accomplish together. I believe communication is the biggest thing right now. Thank you. God bless you.